The History of the Stations of the Cross by Sam Gardner. In the first and second stations, Jesus is just starting to walk with a heavy cross on his shoulders. The Pilgrims in the late 1600s did this as well. In these two wire sculptures I made, they are reenacting the first and second stations of the cross. Jesus is condemned to death, and Jesus carries his cross. In the third and fourth stations, Jesus is just beginning his walk to death, and he falls for the first time. Jesus also meets his mother along the way. The walk of the stations of the cross is also known as the preparation for Easter. The two stations in this slide are Jesus falls for the first time and Jesus meets his mother. In the fifth and sixth stations, Jesus meets Simon of Cyrene along the way to his death, and he also meets Veronica. When the pilgrims were walking the stations of the cross, they used a term called the Via Dolorosa, also known for its meaning of sorrowful day for when Jesus died on the cross. The stations that the pilgrims were walking are Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross, and Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. In the seventh and eighth stations, Jesus falls again, and then later on during his walk to death, he meets some of the women of Jerusalem. As the pilgrims walk the stations of the cross, they do it freely without anything stopping them. Pope Innocent noticed that people were walking the stations and didn't stop them to get in their way. The stations in this slide are Jesus falls the second time, and Jesus meets the woman of Jerusalem. In the ninth and tenth stations, Jesus falls once again, and then he is later stripped of his clothing. While the pilgrims are walking the stations, they have to realize that there are more than just 20 people with them. Some people didn't make the whole thing, and the others finished the 14 stations that are on our church walls every day. In this slide, the stations are Jesus falls the third time, and Jesus is stripped of his garments. In the 11th and 12th stations, Jesus gets nailed to the cross after being stripped of his clothing, and then Jesus dies on the cross. Pilgrims know that Jesus sacrificed himself for the world. When the pilgrims walked, they were made into groups, and each and every person made the sign of the cross. Two stations presented in this slide are Jesus is nailed to the cross, and Jesus dies on the cross. In the final two stations, after Jesus dies on the cross in public, he's taken down and then he is laid in the tomb with the boulder blocking the entrance. Pope Clement VII permitted the stations to be created in all churches in the beginning of the 1700s because the pilgrims had walked the whole 14 stations of the cross. The 13th and 14th stations are Jesus is taken down from the cross and Jesus is laid in the tomb. On this slide, I have the 14 stations of the cross painted out. On the previous slides in this video, I have created wire sculptures reenacting the 14 stations of the cross. And here's my works cited page.